Hello everybody and welcome to race number 4 of the Night Racing League Sports Car Championship. We are at Road Atlanta for the second last round in North America and for a 90-minute race as some of the best sports car drivers on iRacing contend for one of the most precise championships, low incident limit, and it's been a great championship so far. We're watching Hayden Fowler in the 28 Corvette as the cars are out on their warm-up. Keith Rainey in the number 6. We're bringing you a little extra coverage here for this round. We're sorry about the late broadcast as we had some things going up, but we'll be back at our 1700 time, hopefully, for the next round, which is at Daytona. Give you a quick look at the schedule here. Road Atlanta this weekend, and in 2 weeks, we'll be at our second 2-hour race at Daytona before we cross the pond to finish off the season at the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit, Spa, and then Le Mans. We're back to our 10-minute qualifying sessions today, which we will see as soon as the cars finish their warm-up here. A lot of cars probably on quali trim for what's going to be a very, well, it's a very tight track, it's a very fast track, and up and down hills. And of course, a lot of blind apexes as well. We're going to get an onboard shot here. And here we are. You can see blind apexes, blind braking zone to a right-hander. And then another blind apex here to the right-hander. You're going to pick up that curving late. So a very challenging track here today, and we're looking forward to seeing how these guys and gals handle the conditions. As we just have 2 minutes remaining here in the pre-race warm-up. Just a short 10-minute warm-up, so we expect a lot of these guys out on their qualifying trim, just getting set up. We had a very cool practice session as Thomas Brommel is off. A very cool practice session yesterday, which gave us some lap times that weren't really going to translate for today. It's much warmer here today as we're approaching 40 degrees, 38 track temperature here as they get ready to go into qualifying. And everybody just kind of pushing. It's a little slipperier than the last time they were on track. That is Oliver Schlabs, who is currently the quickest car on circuit in the LMP class here, a 1:10.948, and that's getting down into the qualifying zone. We have seen times as quick as the high 109s, so that'll be an interesting to see if they can pull those off with these temperatures. You can see the sun is out, a little cloud cover would help. Steve Groninga back in his traditional livery in the 59. As he had a special livery, I believe, last time around when we were at Sebring. Dennis Rotter, one of the Unleashed cars, has put in the quickest lap time only by 18 hundredths of a second. And we should see the Unleashed guys really battling it out here as the major development as far as the points. And let's have a look at them now. The LMP points, Dennis Rotter leads in the 0111 ahead of Andre Heinrich. The Switch-It car's not here this weekend. So Andre Heinrich, who is really in a great position here to challenge for this championship, is going to give a free race to the 011. Thomas Brommel, a great chance to make up some ground after two unfortunate outings, shall we say, having some offs, not of his own doing. Stritter, the other switcher car, not here, and we should see an astounding battle as the warm-up has ended and qualifying is about to start. Schwarz, Seeley, Rainey, Ellico, and Schlabs are all here, and that should be a staggeringly good battle. As the LMP cars come out, and there is Dennis Rotter, your points leader. They will get 10 minutes here at Road Atlanta, and then the GTE cars will get the track. Thomas Brommel leads them out through the S's as the Unleashed cars, they've done this on every round so far. They've gone out together and try to get ahead of the field to have that clean track and a little bit of a tow. And I'm just trying to think, Thomas is usually a little bit quicker on the timing screens, and I think they go out in this order. Gives Dennis a little bit of a tow, and we have long straightaways here on this fast circuit. They're on the back straight now. And this is an amazing opportunity here for the Unleashed cars to solidify that lead and, of course, get this driver here, Thomas, back into the point challenge. He should be much further up than he is. And we'll see what happens here as they have started their first timed lap. And we watch the sectors. And it is Rotter quickest in that first sector, and Andreas Schwarz having himself a great middle portion of the lap here. There's Andreas in the 204 car. And have I been confused? Yes, he's just started his lap, and that was actually on an outlap, that sector. So sorry for that little bit of misleading. It is Oliver Schlabs, actually, here now on the time lap. He's had a very good second sector. This track is broken into 4 sectors for the iRacing. As coming around is Brommel. He'll go to the top of the sheets first. Behind him, Rotter slots in, so it's a 110.2. As I said, we might be expecting high 109s, and they're not far off of that, as Oliver Schlabs in the 473 puts his car up on top, a 110.163. That's the time to beat. Seeley, a 110.468, is ahead of Schwarz, who puts in a 110.639. Dean Ellico in the 111s. Keith Rainey, the only car we have yet to see, as he crosses the line, and it's 11.3. A little bit surprising from Keith, but as Rotter has gone off circuit, and that is at the very difficult turn 7. It's that decreasing radius. You look at the map and it looks like 2 90-degree right-handers, but 6 is a very fast entry and you can carry that speed, and then they've got to get right down to first gear for turn 7. As Brommel takes over the pole time. Still in the 110s, but not by much. Seeley does not improve, and Rotter, of course, had an off there, so he will not improve. And it is Schlabs, the next car, over the line. Still at a 110.163. His last lap was in the 111s. Rainey has overtaken Ellico, who's in the pits. So, not a full run for the 429. I'm not sure if we missed something there, but... And Seeley not having a good lap here. 2 white sectors. meaning they are not as fast as he's been around. And he's going to let Rotter go by and maybe pick up a little bit of that toe. Brommel improves, and he is in the 109s. A 109.562, and that is a great lap. Schlavs has gone into the pits. As Rotter comes around, 110.7 that time around, so does not improve. 10-minute qualifying for the LMPs. Andreas Schwarz, a 110.004. So the 204 car onto the front row. Here comes Rainey, and that will not be an improvement for him. As we pick up Thomas Brommel down into the chicane. This right there, as he makes that left-hand turn, that is the line for these guys. If you are in that chicane, you may finish your lap. If you're still on the back straightaway, you're going to have to bring your car into the pits, and that is when the 10 minutes hit the timing. Of course, the GTE cars are let loose out of pit road at the 10-minute mark. Rotter and Seeley come across the line, do not improve. Next across the line, is going to be Rainey as Schwarz comes into the pits. Rainey's had a green sector 3. See if he can improve on his time. A 1:11.420 that time by. As Thomas Brommel, the only car into the 109s. And we see the GT cars starting to get themselves out on pit road. Brommel's in. There's Hayden Fowler just getting himself into the pits. Brommel into the pits. Dennis Rotter with some work here if he wants to try and get that car off row number 2. Coming around with 3 green sectors, and it is a good lap, a 109.803. So the unleashed cars are now 1 and 2. And what a day they can have with the Switch It cars not traveling to Road Atlanta here today. There is Paul Seeley, currently 5th. He'll start inside of row 3 unless he can improve. Rainey has improved, but continues to sit 6th, the 110.7. 2 green sectors, but it's still 2.5 tenths behind his teammate in the 72 car. No improvement in sector 1. Brommel and Schwarz in the pits. And Rotter looks like he may be off and coming into the pits as well. Rainey has a green sector 2 and a pretty good sector 1. 10.068 in sector 1 and a green 20.243 in sector 2. So this is a good lap for the American. Dean Ellico quicker in sector 3. He's got a green lap. No improvement sector 3 for Rainey. Seeley has gone to the pits as he's had a terrible lap there. Here comes the 6 car. It is a green lap, a 110.675, but still sitting outside of row number 3. Oliver Schlabs is back out. He's now been demoted all the way to the outside of row 2 with a 110.163 Schwarz, a 110.004, just misses out on the 109 club. Ellico fast in Sector 2 again. He keeps getting green sectors when he comes around in Sector 2. As the GTEs are about to come on track, Eliko's on the back straight, so this lap is not going to count. He's going to have to come into the pits, and the GTEs are released. Rainywell's also on track. He will also have to come down pit road as he was not at the chicane in time. And they do, both cars into pit road. And there is John Dinkel in the 229 Ford GT. Chris Costa ahead in the 76 Corvette C8R. As we should have a great GT battle here. All the top runners are here. We'll give you an idea of the points in GTE. Jens Wolters, your series leader, but only by 4 points over last season champion Jennifer McDonald. Toby Seninger not here in the Ferrari this weekend. Hayden Fowler, 31 points off the points lead in the 28 Corvette. He was looking very, very strong in practice. Kevin Hensel, Steve Groninger, Mark Sonnen, John Dinkel all here, as well as Chris Thompson and Chris Costa. And the GTE class is always close, so we'll see what kind of lap times we get here. Oh, and that is Kevin Hensel in the 94 car off the circuit. And that's on the final corner. If he's got some damage there, he's got to go all the way around before bringing it back in. Of course, there is no teleporting in qualifying. That's to prevent anybody getting an unfair advantage from crashing intentionally and getting a free reset and a brand new car under fueling. But you can see the damage on that right front corner. And that's really going to affect this session for Kevin. Cars coming around for their first timed laps. Here's Hayden Fowler, who I believe is just finishing his outlap. He's gone out last. There's Chris Thompson as well. So the first car to cross the line is going to be Jennifer McDonald in the 99. Here she comes down the hill and into the final corner. And it's a 1:16.297. That's a good banker lap, but we are expecting 15s here from what we've seen in practice. Groninger comes through 17.5, Costa 17.4, Dinkel just in the 18s. And you can see a 120.2 for Hensel as Wolters brings the BMW through a 15.782, and that's a little more representative of what we're expecting. And he's got the BMW, an all BMW front row at the moment here in GTE. There's Mark Sonnen in the 111 Corvette C8R. And a shout out to Julian, who may or may not be watching, a good friend of the league and a member of the league for many, many years. He's been helping Mark with setups here. And I'm just looking, Hensel is still out on track, and I'm a little surprised there. See if Kevin makes his way to pit road. He's certainly got enough time to get it back onto pit road and get that damage fixed and come out, but he's not. He's going to stay out there. He improves his time to a 17.0, but we've seen much better lap times from Kevin in practice. I think that damage may be hurting the top speed, especially down that long stretch. Wolters, one lap and out. He's going to do a 2-run here, but a 15.782 is a very competitive lap and might be good enough for pole here. Oh, And Mark Sonnen has come around at the top of the hill. That's just coming out of the S's. Oh, dear. As Hayden Fowler goes second, Sonnen has teleported to the pits, I think, to get out of the way. And that is going to be a qualifying ban at Daytona, or whichever race he competes in next. And that may have been habit, but it's a very yes or no rule. You either do it or you don't, and that takes out any of the gray area. So unfortunately, currently sitting 7th on the grid, now down to 8th is John Dinkel. A great lap time there. Hensel also improves. So Volters and Fowler currently the front row in GTE. McDonald and Hensel in row 2. John Dinkel, a great lap, 1:16.7, was temporarily 4th until Hensel has displaced him. There's John there in the Ford. Looking very strong. We are going to have a great race, as always, in GTE. As you can see, your provisional pole sitter back out, and he has improved his lap. That was an out lap. Groningen also coming out for a second run on fresh tires. And Chris Thompson with a 1:19.917 brings the Porsche RSR into the pits. Hayden Fowler showing off a new Night Racing Esports livery. He's been playing around with the blue and black here for this race. And you can see them running mirror cars. Hayden with the blue and black trim as he just pushes it off wide there. And if you get a shot of Kevin, you notice he's got the black with the blue trim. But the car's looking very, very sharp here this weekend. And a shout out there to Hayden for all his hard work, keeping those Corvettes looking good. Volter's coming around. We'll get a shot of him down the hill. He's got a purple sector 2, so this could be something. A purple sector 3, but it doesn't improve. It was a 16.335. Fowler's hit pit road in behind, and I think that's going to do it for the 28 car. John Dinkel, he's got a purple first sector, so let's watch the 229 car here. Competitive second sector. Third sector dropping a little bit. So we obviously nailed those blind apexes in the first sector very well. Had a great first sector, and it is an improvement. He's got himself back on row number 2, and Kevin Hensel right behind him nips him again. And not only does he nip John Dinkel there, he has pushed ahead of Jennifer McDonald as well with a 16.092. And that's going to put him inside of row 3 now. Volters is coming around again. Nothing spectacular on the sector times, and it's a 15.930, 2/10 off his best. Steve Groningen in the 59 comes by. He had 2 green sectors, but an 18.796 does not improve. He was green, and then it dropped off a little bit. So as the car's coming complete, it looks like Jens Volters is off. Got a yellow flag here. And Jens has had an off, we are told, and he's just getting his car turned around. Yes, damage on that left front corner. He's done this before. He had that little coming together with Toby Seninger after they were sitting 1-2 on the qualifying sheets. But he'll get that fixed, and We'll start this race from the front row if we sit where we are right now. Kevin Hensel has a green first sector. Now heads back to short chute to turn 6. And it's a 21.8. So a reasonable second sector. So as that comes by, we're going to read down our qualifying order here. LMP, Thomas Brommel and Dennis Rotter, the Unleashed cars will start on row number 1. Andreas Schwarz inside of row 2 with Oliver Schlabs alongside. A tenth of a second separating them. Paul Seeley and Keith Rainey will start in row number 3. And Dean Ellico, 7th, in row number 4 by himself, a 1:11.0. Very, very tight. 1.5 seconds covers the entire field, and 1 second covers the top 6. Kevin Hensel looks like he has backed off, so the GTE grid is Jens Wolters, a 1:15.782 is your pole time, with Hayden Fowler, this car right here that you're looking at, lining up outside of row number 1, a 15.931. Kevin Hensel and Jennifer McDonald will line up in row 2 with John Dinkle and Chris Costa in row number 3. Steve Groniga and Mark Sonnen line up in row 4, and Chris Thompson will be alone in row 5 as we go to the grid here at Road Atlanta. And we're just going to see how the GTEs lined up, because I'm just be getting a message that that timing screen may have been wrong. And it looks like Hayden Fowler has actually got the pole time. So he will line up on the left if he's on pole. And we'll see what that is as we get set for 90 minutes here at Road Atlanta. And Hayden Fowler has, in fact, lined up on the left side. So he is your pole sitter. We're sorry for the timing screen there, as it picked up maybe a wrong time or missed Hayden's actual pole time. Everybody else is in the right positions. So it is pole for the 28 car, and the 24 car will line up in second. And we just wait for the pole sitters here in LMP. Everyone else seems to be on circuit. There is Dennis Rotter. And Thomas Brommel looking for a big day here. On pole again in the 4 car. And he will be the final car. And there is Thomas. We get a full pace lap, as we do on most of the American circuits. And everybody can try and get their brakes seated in. I've never been able to really get a lot of tire pressure on a warm-up lap. It'll be a 15-second gap. A very interesting start here as you see the GTEs sitting and waiting. We have a 15-second gap to keep the 2 classes separate. So the GTEs will get a fairly regular start on the back straightaway. The chicane will be their turn 1. It's the LMPs who take the green flag on the downhill right-hander. So it'll be very interesting to see how these guys sort that out. We know with the AI... enabled, a lot of these drivers have been using that to get themselves practiced up, especially for race starts. So hopefully they're all familiar with it. Thomas Brommel will have control of the field, but based on the practice starts, it's only going to be for about 5 seconds. It's a very short distance from pace car off to green flag. we head back now, the GTEs are rolling, and Hayden Fowler, the pole sitter, will have the field. As the car's sitting back a little bit. Get yourself settled in. Welcome to race number 4 of the Night Racing Esports Sportscar Championship here at Road Atlanta. And we're going to try and get through this entire broadcast without making the obvious mistake when referring to the track name. If you are of legal age in your place of residence, the drinking game will be how many times I say Road America by mistake in the broadcast, but I haven't done it yet, and that one doesn't count, so put that down. Thomas Brommel will lead them out of the chicane, and this field has to tighten itself up. Dennis Rotter is well behind. Here he comes. And we are green at Road Atlanta. And a great start in the back. Here comes Rotter on the inside for turn 1. I was going to say a great start for Dean Ellico, who has actually gotten himself ahead of Paul Seeley at the back. And away goes the 28 of Hayden Fowler, and the GTEs away clean. And already, he didn't get the pass done on the inside. Rotter has dropped back. Brommel having a very good start. And there is Seeley confirmed back at the back of the field. As a little look by Rainey, but Schwartz is having none of that. The GTEs are through turns 6 and 7. As we complete lap number 1 at Road Atlanta, it is Thomas Brommel leading Dennis Rotter and Andreas Schwartz. And up over the hill. And Oliver Schlabs is in the pits. Oh, and around is the leader. Brommel is off. He's hit the concrete wall. And nobody touched him that time. The 4 car has dropped down. We've also lost the 473 who's in the pits. And Paul Seeley is around in turn 7. The LMP is having a terrible start. Brommel comes by. But up front, it's now Dennis Rotter leading Andreas Schwartz, and it's only a half-second lead. They've got a gap on Rainey and Ellico, who find themselves now battling for a podium. It's actually Rainey well up. We get back to the GTE field. Hayden Fowler ahead of Jens Wolters, Jenny McDonald, and Kevin Hensel, your top 4. And Brommel losing it there, and he's got it off the track. That was Seeley coming through, and that was a big hit. So everything happening. That car was clearly damaged. Let's see if we can get a look as the GTE's now very close. And we have got podium places up for grabs in LMP. We're going to try and get some replays here as we come to grips with the GTE field as they've settled in down the back straightaway. Fowler leading by just 0.3 of a second. It's a visual gap. The time is unimportant. They pulled a little bit of a second on McDonald and Hensel. But let's, as we're 5 minutes into this 90-minute race, let's have a look and see what's happened so far. Here is the LMP start, and you see Oliver Schlabs is a little bit back, and that gave the inside lane to Dean Ellico. Of course, in a row by himself at the back there, he was able to slot in. The race is on at the green light, so it's totally legal. As they're coming through the S's... Oh, and that's a huge hit, and just a little too much throttle there. And then we look forward up to Brommel just losing that one on the curbing. Then ahead of that, Paul Seeley in 6 and 7, promoted back to 6th place, just loses the front end, and then it all goes bad. And then, of course, at the very end, we saw... You can clearly see the damage on the right rear of that car, so I can't imagine it's tracking properly. And... yeah, the back end is sliding and squirming around. I'm sure he's going to try and get it back to the pits. And then that's a huge hit, just as big as the one we saw with Oliver Schlabs. Both of those cars in the pits... And Oliver's, we are told, is bad enough. He has retired the car, so that's too bad for the 473. We're back up front with the GTEs, who've gotten away pretty much in grid position. Hensel has dropped behind McDonald. What a race here. Up front, we have a bit of a breakaway now with Roder and Andreas Schwarz. Andreas is looking racy here today, isn't he? In the 204 car. And a 4-car battle, and it's not that far back to Chris Costa in 5th place either. 5 seconds off the race lead. 3 seconds to the back of this 4-car train in GTE that has Night Racing Esports cars sandwiching the other two. And this would be a great run, early to say, for Hayden, but 31 points off the lead, 38 for a race win. So keeping Volters behind him would be a major prize. Mark Zonin up to 6th place in the background there. He is getting past Steve Groniga and John Dinkel, who's dropped back a little bit from the start, looking to make that ground back up in the 229. Good battle there as the leaders have caught the back end of the GTE field. Already a very short lap here. And Roder and Schwarz will come through the 66 with Chris Thompson. Close battles up front in both classes despite a short field here. Schwarz is looking racy, isn't he? On board now with the German in the 204. And you get a sense of how difficult this circuit is. A blind apex, blind braking zone. You have to brake and turn before you can see turn number 3. Then another blind apex over the hill, down through the S's, into a very fast left-hander on the throttle as early as you can get, down the short straightaway to turn number 6. Like we said, it's not 290s here. You actually go pretty quick through turn 6 and then haul it right down for a tight uphill over the apex, turn 7, which has been catching a lot of people out. And the LMP lead now comes up to the back of that 3-car battle for 6th place. And that's as quick as it goes for a lap at Road Atlanta. Rotter will get them on the front straight. He's going to get 2 cars, and that'll be an advantage. Schwarz does get by Dinkel, but he's got Groningen in front of him in the S's. And at this point, he thought about it, but you're pretty much going to have to wait through there. Ahead of him, Rotter is in behind the 111, so no harm, no foul. It'll be even for both of them, and now he can get by the 59. And that shouldn't really hurt him too much there, as he'll get through 6 and 7 pretty much at speed and be able to easily dispatch the Corvette, and it'll be back game on. As Rainey and Ellico looking like they're going to have a tight battle. Seeley with that spin is 18 seconds behind his teammates. But he's in 5th place thanks to a couple of crashes here from front runners. We're going to get a look back up front in GTE, and there is Hayden Fowler with Jens Wolters behind him as they come down through the S's. Look at the BMW catching that curb. These cars are always on edge through most of this lap. Take 90 minutes of this, thank you very much. The 4 GTEs, a little bit of a gap starting to form, but certainly well within touch when you bring traffic into the equation. McDonald just under 2 seconds behind Wolters now as we come around to complete lap number 9 in the GTEs. As Andreas Schwarz has passed Rotter for first. We thought he was looking racy there, and he has done it. And that would have been down entering the chicane. Despite the fact that Rotter had a quick lap last time around. We saw Jonathan Dinkel has passed Steve Groningen for 7th in GTE. As this battle for 3rd comes through the 5th place car, Chris Costa in the 76. And they're coming through the meat of the field now. Kevin Hensel in his own battle. Look at Dennis Rotter right up on the tail end. Lights flashing. We're coming through. That's for Jen McDonald more than anything, but he's not close enough. Rotter has to back off. He doesn't have the apex. And so that works out very well for Andreas Schwarz. He's going to have a nice gap. Look at how big that gap is after only a couple of corners. Rotter has to wait all the way through the S's. Gets Hensel by turn 6. He'll have to wait for turn 7. Schwarz is through and maybe pushed his way a little aggressively there, as Wolters might not have been happy about that. He's going to get by the race leader in GTE. Down through right, late on the brakes, but he does hold the apex. We were expecting maybe quite a few drive-throughs. The drivers trying to get their track limits in practice. There were a lot of very high incident counts, so we'll see how they do here in the race. Everybody's looked pretty good. We've had a couple of cars go off in LMP. The GTEs have looked very good. And as always, when race day comes along, the precision goes up. And even despite the close racing, these guys on the track, not bumping into each other. Keith Rainey now has made it up to Hayden Fowler. It'll be an interesting thing to watch as these fields are very, very tight. The LMP top 4 very close together. It's a 7-second gap, but relatively close. We've got the top 4 GTEs all together. And then another little gap. Chris Costa's by himself with another 3-car pack. So they're all going to get a fair amount of clear track racing with each other, and then just have to deal with the traffic in one big chunk. So that could bode well for keeping this race tight. As there you see, the top 4 GTEs all right together, and 2.3 seconds covers all 4 cars. And that is after the LMPs have gone through and split them apart and pushed them together. This circuit was voted by the league members almost unanimously as the one they wanted to have on the Season 2 calendar. So a little disappointing at the turnout, but we're of course dealing with springtime and some pretty nice weather, at least where I am, so maybe that's a factor, but the league will be looking into that in the coming weeks as we head for Daytona. As Andreas Schwarz now the quickest car on circuit, a 10.784 last time around. 10.742 as he crosses the line. Trying to extend that lead now 3.5 seconds over the 0.11 of Dennis Rotter, who now, with Heinrich not here and Brommel crashing, has got a massive opportunity to put a stranglehold on this championship the way that Nathan Jew did in Season 1. 4th place, Philip Stritter not here. So Andreas Schwarz, the 5th place car in the championship, 58 points behind, is the only one in front of him. As Jens Wolters gets closer. Four races remain in this championship. We want to be part of a low incident. You can see how clean it is, how competitive it is. Get a PM over to me and we can get you on the grid in LMP or GTE. The LMPs are an open championship. You must meet driving requirements and make some practice sessions. The GTE field is a mid-split field. We cap the entry at 3K I rating, and it keeps the races close like you're watching right now. There's a little puff of smoke and a touch on the curb there by McDonald. No problem though. Kevin Hensel watches from behind. That's the 72 of Paul Seeley now finally making it up to this battle in GTE. but still a 16-second gap up to Dean Ellicos, who's made a little bit of headway, but not a ton. A very uncharacteristic spin, I would have to say, for the 72 car. We haven't seen that, and it was completely on his own. Very much the same as the 3 LMPs that have spun in this race, all did it on their own. Seeley lucky enough to get away without touching anything and is continuing on. The other 2 not so fortunate, as it happened on a very, very high-speed section of the circuit. Coming out of the last corner, Seeley will clear his GTE teammate, as that is Chris Thompson. And we'll see what happened there. Chris has made it to the pits. It's in the S's. That's a fast section of the track. And he's been hit by Rainey, but looked like he was slowing down there. I think trying to do the right thing and get out of the way, but that's not a braking zone. And I think maybe the 6 car got caught a little by surprise there. Talk to the drivers about that one, but that's unfortunate for Chris. Again, this is a very fast track. It's tight and very precise, but it's also super fast, and almost any accident now. We've had 3 cars spin, and 4 cars spin, and 3 of them have had very, very heavy impacts as a result. Completing lap number 16, the top 4 GTE cars, less than 2 seconds. You can throw a blanket over them. Hayden Fowler in the 28, leading Jens Wolters, the series leader. 3rd place, the season 1 champion, and then teammate Kevin Hensel in 4th place. It's like they're on rails, these 4. And they've been doing it all year. What an incredible sharp end of the field here in the GTE class. And Hayden Fowler, who is a race winner in season 1, trying to get his name on the top step here in the 4th race of season 2. It's really a shame that Seninger is not here for this. Of course, Toby in 3rd place, only 20 points off the lead. So we'll have to find out what's going on there. And scheduling problems, we know it's spring coming up, so you can't really expect perfect attendance from everyone, but the championship's so tight and Toby's definitely in the mix. It's a shame he couldn't be with us this weekend. What a shot. Down through the S's. As we're going to go on board here with the 94 of Kevin Hensel through turn 7, and we'll get a bird's eye view of this 4-car battle for GTE. Just here, the tires scrubbing down through turn 1, and a difficult it is to pick up those blind apexes to begin with as a slide through turn 5 as they exit the S's. Great stuff by all these drivers. "25 minutes in the books. Hayden Fowler continues to lead. And Mark Sonnen with some damage on the front of that car. I missed where that happened. And I don't have a replay. Sorry about that. Volters continues to dog the 28. And I haven't seen a wheel wrong on the Canadian car all day. But Volter's really close now as we come down the long back straightaways. He got enough toe to get himself alongside that Corvette. Surprising. Jens has been known to use a lot of strategy too, as he's trying to save a little fuel here. Tell you what, we can find out. I'm going to go on board with the 24 car. See if we can see if he's doing any fuel saving on these straightaways, or if he's got it flat chat all the way down. All the way there. Let's see if we can get the same exit out of turn 7 as he did last lap. It's pretty good. Certainly an early lift, but he wasn't close enough to make a move anyway. He was a little closer last time around. But it may be close on fuel for these GTEs. And any bit you can save is always going to help you in the end. There was talk in practice about possibly a 2-stop race here for them. So we'll see what happens. Checking in up front, Andreas Schwarzenau has just opened this right up and has an 8.5 second lead on the 0-11 of Dennis Rotter. The closest battle is for third place, and it's not that close. It's a 3-second gap for Keith Rainey. Just see Dean Ellico in the background. Well, he's kind of equidistant, isn't he, between Rotter and Ellico. As another tow down the long back straightaway for Volters. And we come very close to completing the first 30 minutes of this race. Kevin Hensel still just as close to Jen McDonald here. As they've now dropped off the back a little bit. That gap has opened up, and Hensel. And they've touched. Hensel and McDonald have gone off in turn number 1. And there's definitely some contact with the barrier. The LMP leaders are coming through. That was Rotter going by. Mark Sonnen looks like he has pulled his car off. Doesn't really show that he's in the pits, so we'll get a look at that. Trying to see if we can pick up any damage on the 99 car. It looks fairly clean. Maybe that left front corner a little bit. As Rainey and Ellico now come through, definitely some damage on the left front of the 94 car. We'll have a look at what happened here. Down the straight, he pulls out. Jen's got the line. It was very close. It's left rear, actually, that hit on the 99 car. And just being told from a different angle, it looks like there may have been a little bit of net code involved there as well. As the 94 was pulling back to not pass. It didn't look like the cars were going to touch, but as Jen turned down, it looks like there was a little bit of net code that lifted the back of that BMW. So that's unfortunate. And it has opened up the gap now. They're still running together, but it is a 13-second gap now between these two, who are now racing for the race win by themselves, Fowler and Volters. 13 seconds back to McDonald and Hensel, who still run third and fourth. They've got a 13-second gap on the 229 of Dinkel, who is now in fifth, ahead of Groninga. Costa in seventh. He's dropped down. He was running in fifth earlier, and Mark Sonnen is off the circuit and not showing in pit lane. So maybe we've got a retirement there as well from the 111. We saw a lot of damage on that car, and unfortunately didn't have a replay of it. So maybe that has finally caused the Corvette to retire from the race. Coming through the S's is Dennis Rotter through the race winners, and you can see how he's opened up that gap. And we'll see, depending on where he gets by Fowler, if he closes it back up again. That's ideally how it all works. Dean Ellico is in the pits. There he is. He hasn't spun or anything. This looks like a scheduled pit stop, a little early, just past the 30-minute mark. So is Dean splitting this race, no tires, is Dean splitting this race into threes? 29.1 seconds stopped on pit road, and we'll see what the other LMPs do. This has become a five-car race in LMP. And it's really a one-car race up front with Andreas Schwarz now 11 seconds ahead of Dennis Rotter. Maybe Dennis realizing with this what could be a huge point lead here today with some of the prime contenders not at the track and his other teammate, crashing out. He can come home and collect his 27 points for second place, don't take any risks, and he's still, although he will lose a little ground to Schwarz, he's got a nice gap to play with there. It'll be 8 points he would lose, but it's a 58-point gap coming into the race, so that would be money well spent to guarantee that second place. Rainey now with a large gap over Seeley. It's a 20-second gap, just a little over 19 to be fair. Ellico out of position. He's the only car that has pitted so far, as we are into the second half hour at Road Atlanta. And we've had some attrition. Chris Thompson has retired. We saw a very heavy impact there from the 66 car. And Mark Sonnen looks to have retired in the 111 after some impact. And we know early in the race, Oliver Schlabs in the LMPs had a massive crash in the S's on lap 1. Again, all by himself. And Thomas Brommel had 2 offs. The second one was the major one. He was trying to get that car around. Obviously had some right rear damage from the first crash. And the car was not stable right through that section there. And it was damaged in the first one, and it was terminal in the second one. Although he is still on pit road, I have to say. That car has been on pit road for 31 minutes, but he is getting it fixed. He's completed 3 more laps than Oliver Schlabs. And Oliver has retired, so he's not under threat there. But you never know. There's still an hour to go. If there's a major incident here and he can get that car out, he could still pick up a spot or 2. So it really depends. It'll be a crossover point where it won't be worth keeping the car out anymore, because 6 will be the only place he can be. But at the moment, he's doing the right thing and he's getting that car fixed, just in case. There he is in the background. Someone blur by there as Paul Seeley runs through turn 1 in the 72. The creator Hazeley Fade as well with that lazy spin in turn 7. Coming through that section of the circuit is your GTE race leader, the 28 of Hayden Fowler. As into the pits comes your LMP race leader, Andreas Schwarz. Rotter is coming through. He will momentarily take over the lead. He'll go up through the S's. Keith Rainey has also stayed out and will go for a 31st lap. The 72 of Paul Seeley, temporarily in 4th, is also going to come in after lap number 30. And that's going to put Dean Ellico back where he belongs. He's just now coming down the back straight. As there is still stop now coming out past the 4 of Thomas Brommel. And Andre Schwarz will be 3rd until the top 2 cars come in for their service. You saw the 72 getting back to his pit stall just as Schwarz was leaving. Are you kidding me? Rotter is going to stay out for another lap. So that 11-second gap, as Rainey has, what has happened there? Keith Rainey has come into the pits at the end of lap 31. But there is clear damage on the front of that car. It's another blind apex if you want coming in. It looked like he clipped the grass there. Oh, and he center punched the tires on the entrance to pit road. So that is not going to help the 6 car in his battle with teammate Dean Ellico. And we'll see how much time that costs him in pit road. Schwarz has gone through. Here comes Ellico now. He's going to drop back. And I can see that damage has cleared up on the front a little bit. Let's check the pit time. 43.8 seconds stopped for the 6 car. Rotter is on pit road now. It looks like 33.7 is a full pit stop, so he had some optional damage, and it's cost him an additional 10 seconds stopped. as Rotter gets his service, and we're expecting that should be fuel only and somewhere in the 30-second range again. So Keith Rainey is going to be the loser on the pit stops as far as time is concerned. 1:08 on pit road. Dean Ellico had the quick pit stop because he looks like he split this race into triples. Rotter 33.6 is stopped, and he's going to be coming out. So Schwarz 56.4 on pit road. Dennis Rotter 55.9 on pit road. Dean Ellico, the quick 51.5. And Keith Rainey 1:08. It was 56.4 seconds for Seeley as well. So looks like full fuel for everyone except Dean Ellico, who's going to have a slightly longer final stop if he's doing this race in thirds. Back up top, the 2:04 of Andreas Schwarz. Now, how is the 2 extra laps that Rotter has done? We know that gap opened up to about 11 seconds. And if he was saving fuel for that entire first run, maybe he's going to get it back on pit road. Or that's the plan anyway. We'll watch the lap times here. He won't be able to get him too far out. These guys are doing about 2.5 liters per lap in the LMPs. So that's 5 liters right now he's got in the bank. 5 liters less he will need on his final stop. If he can get 5 more on the next run, 10 liters. That's a little under 1/7 of a tank. So divide your 33.7 seconds by 7 and multiply your answer by 2, and that will be the amount of time he's saved if he can get the same mileage again. And we'll compare that to his gap. Right now, the gap is 5.7 seconds. So that's pretty darn good. He only gained 1/2 second on pit road, and he's gained about 5 seconds, almost 6, in the exchange. Meanwhile, back up front in GTE, we'll get ready for their pit stops, which should be right around the halfway mark of this race. And we know some of these guys were worried it could be iffy on getting the full 90 minutes. So we'll see how close to the halfway mark the GTEs are coming in, or if they can stretch it a little bit. It's been Hayden Fowler setting the pace up front in the Corvette. Right in behind us, looks like John Dinkle there was coming into the pits for his first stop. He was off to the right. He is on pit road. So the 5th place car now in GTE on pit road with 48 minutes. So that is definitely a 2-stopper if he needs full fuel here. Fowler's been having a great year in that car. They are doing very, very well in the 6-hour endurance races. Multiple race wins this season. And he's looking very stout here today. Against a driver who, let's face it, has kind of had his way with the field. The gap in GTE would be much greater if Jens hadn't had a little bit of problem at Suzuka in the first race. He was dominating that race. McDonald and Hensel are in. So Fowler has certainly got it up against the sharp end of the field here, and he's got Wolters in behind. I can't wait to see as the battle for third is in. Both cars with contact. We'll see if they have to get any damage fixed. McDonald is out. And Hensel not too far behind. Pit road times, they were both 26-1 for McDonald, 27-1 for Hensel. Whether that was just getting in and out of the box. 1 second difference on pit road, so I have a feeling neither of them were fixing any damage. They were light touches. You can see the damage on both cars. But I'm not sure how much that's going to affect overall speed. Certainly the suspension and the tires are clean after that bump. Rotter makes his way through this lead battle for GTE. They have not stopped. Groningen has also not made his first stop. He's in third temporarily. The gap's still under 6 seconds. Groningen makes his way into the pits and will drop back down to the 5th place as here come the race leaders right on the 45-minute mark. So pit road times are only about 34 seconds, just trying to see 48 seconds. So they're going to come out with 44 minutes to go. It is going to be close whether or not these guys can go the full distance on this fuel load. And a little bit of a reverse there for Volters. I was going to say they stopped almost exactly the same time. Volters a little too far forward and had to back up into his pit box. The LMP race leader, Andreas Schwarz, comes down the back straightaway. Fowler away, and not too bad, but you can see that gap has opened up just a touch. As close as these cars have been all day, just that little bit of an overshoot on the entry. And it's now a 2.5 second gap as we come out of pit road. McDonald hugs the inside of turn 1 and allows Schwarz to get by on the outside. The answer for you, all of you playing along at home, I'll be very disappointed if you didn't do the math yourself, but with a 33.7 second fuel stop, if you can save 10 liters of fuel or 4 laps, you're going to be saving 4.48 seconds on pit road. So that is the gap that Dennis Rotter would have to be behind Schwarz, and that is if he can save an additional 2 laps and stop 4 laps after Schwarz does. We will watch that. There is Dennis right now. Basically has to keep that gap to 5 seconds. You can see it's already ballooned back up to 7 as he comes through the S's. Bit of a lock-up on that right front. Eliko's going to keep just enough tarmac under the 4 wheels to keep that 429 moving forward. Great job there as he obviously smoked it into turn number 6. Dean finds himself in a podium position here. after his teammate Keith Rainey had problems entering pit road. They were very close on track, and that little bit of damage repair and the extra time getting in has given Alico a 17-second lead. Rainey now having to watch, well, not having to watch his mirrors yet. It's 6 seconds back to the third night racing esports car, Paul Seeley, who's had problems of his own right here at the famous Turn 7. Jennifer McDonald has now shed the Corvette C8R sticker that was on her rear view mirror. There is Kevin Hensel now, 4.5 seconds back of the BMW, as our two race leaders share the screen at the same time. A little flash, I'm coming through, and the job's done well before the entry to turn number 1. Ooh, and a little miss on that apex of turn 2. Gets everything sorted. And nice and clean through the S's for Andreas. So we'll give ourselves a little... Give ourselves a little rundown here in a moment. Your race leader is Andreas Schwarz on lap 42 with 39 minutes remaining here at Road Atlanta. And he's had himself a great race, qualified in row number 2, ran behind Rotter for the first third of this race, and then made the pass coming off the back straight in the chicane. Dennis now runs second, but has a great chance to open up his points lead. He's got a 9-second lead over the 429 of Dean Alico. Sorry, I'm looking at a lot of stuff here. Keith Rainey is fourth, who was running in the top 3. As Jens Wolters has made it into pit road, what is going on with the 24 car? Jens running in behind. That's the same curb, and he's hit the wall. The same curb that caught out Thomas Brommel. And he has taken that car back to the garage. So major developments here in GTE. And Christmas has come early for the 28 car, as he now has a 20-second gap in a race that had 2 seconds covering the top 4 cars in GTE for almost an entire half hour. We've had 2 of them come together with a little bit of net code, and now the second place car has crashed at the top of the hill, and Hayden Fowler has got himself the lead by 19.6 seconds over Jen McDonald. We can pick up our rundown again, as that is Keith Rainey. Now running in 4th place, and he's got himself a 7-second lead over the 72 of Paul Seeley. Paul with a spin in turn 7 on the second lap of the race is the last car running in LMP after Thomas Brommel and Oliver Schlabs crashed out in the opening laps. Here is Hayden Fowler in the blue and black special livery of the Night Racing Esports Corvette C8R. Hayden took pole position and has led from the pole, even though it was a tight 2-second race for the top 4. He now finds himself with a 20-second gap over the 99 of Jen McDonald. Jen has been running third all day with the 94 of Kevin Hensel. Those are the two who came together, sort of, down here at the end of the front straightaway. They've dropped back, but still have a very comfortable lead over the 229 of John Dinkle, who finds himself running in 4th place in the Ford GT and having a great run. He leads the 59 of Steve Groninga by 14 seconds. Dinkle, Groninga, and Mark Sonnen had a great 3-car battle through the opening stages of this race. Sonnen has since gone off and retired the 111. And Chris Costa, now in the 76, runs in 6th place. And unfortunately, that is the final car running in GTE, as we've had quite a bit of attrition on this very difficult circuit. And Chris just now getting the blue flags from the race leader in GTE, who I'm sure is not going to push any issues now with 34 minutes remaining. And a huge lead all of a sudden with the pressure of Jens Wolters no longer. This is Keith Rainey, who's the quickest car on circuit the last time around, a 1:10.409. And really one of the only cars to worry about. The two closest battles on the circuit, LMP is Rainey and Seeley, but that's a 7-second gap. And at the moment, Rainey has slightly quicker lap times. The next best is here, the 76 of Chris Costa, who is only 6 seconds behind Steve Groninga, who is going to be just up the road a little bit. Hayden Fowler makes his way through there. And yes, there is Groninga there, just entering turn number 1. And that is Groninga off, and it looks like Rainey's been involved there. And we can see damage up the left-hand side. And that's really opened up that gap. We'll see if Chris comes into the pits. He is coming into the pits. That was a pretty hard hit, and it's a lot of concrete barriers around this circuit. We have a replay from Chris Costa here. Just see it through the S's. Rainey makes the move. He's alongside. It looks like Chris kind of made the turn in. And Rainey was already there. I'm not sure what the stewards will say about that one. It looked like it was a pretty clean pass. The cars were still alongside, however, at the turn-in point, and I think it's so tough through there with the track ebbing and flowing and pulling away from you that sometimes they slide away from you. And getting through the corner, you have to slide the car, and the contact was really side to side. It wasn't any front to back or anything like that, so Costa in the pits. And Seeley, that really slowed down the 6 car, obviously, on that lap. A 112.927 for Keith Rainey. Seeley comes around with an 11.2, so he's closed down that gap a little bit. It's under 5 seconds. And so any pressure that Groningen is going to have there from behind is also now gone, with Chris having to go to the pits. That's too bad. He was having a good run there. Oh, it's off. That is Hensel has been hit off. And another net code. Oh, brother, it goes from bad to worse for the 94. And I'm not sure that car's tracking straight either. You can see a lot of that left front tire. Costa still in the pits in the background. As we cross into the final half hour here at Road Atlanta. And I'm very proud. If you guys took me up on that drinking game, you are lost. I haven't made that mistake once yet, and I'm feeling pretty confident. I don't think I'm going to do it. Road Atlanta. Groningen will allow the race leader through. And Hayden Fowler here on his way to a great day in GTE. And he's in cruise mode now. 30 minutes. Keep it on the island. It's a formidable opponent behind, but it's a 20-second gap. The 94 has made it around and is coming down pit road. And that is a podium position he's running in. And that car does not look like it's tracking very well at all. And so a good day gets better for John Dinkle. That car is clean. He's been fast all weekend, and he's got the 229 on the podium with 28 minutes remaining at Road Atlanta. And we're just checking back. This is John's third race. He's had a 10th at Suzuka and an 8th place at Sebring. But he has looked very, very strong here. And he's got himself on the podium. So what a great run for the 229 and the only Ford in the field. And we were talking about that pit stop gap. Roder is, well, he's the quickest car on circuit last time around. He was on Peter Schwartz, the LMP leader. It's 9.4 seconds now. And we were saying, there's Roder there. If he wanted to save enough fuel and comes in 2 laps after Schwartz does, you would save about 5 seconds of pit road time. And he's right now outside of that gap. So the way we calculate it, and I can't wait to find out if I'm right, he is going to be about 5 seconds behind Schwartz when the pit stops cycle their way through. He's been saving fuel. He's probably been saving his car. Maybe he has a little more rubber left on. And we'll see if he starts doing some qualifying laps in the last half an hour. Here's Schwartz coming down the back straightaway. Ooh, which way are you going? Schwartz gets by Groningen now, who finds himself in 4th place. What? A lot of attrition all of a sudden. Hensel and Costa still in the pits. I just want to check and see here. There they both are. Costa's been in there a lot longer. He's 3 laps behind, but they both had similar impacts on the left side of the car. And if Costa can get out, we'll see how that sorts out the positions. That could be a race. We'll see. It depends how long the repairs take, if they can get them back out at all. But there's a point difference between 5th and 6th, and it's worth doing. Our 2 race leaders on screen at the same time. And what a run for both of them. Andreas with the flashes. He doesn't want to surprise anybody. And this would be his first win in the KRL if he can bring it home. Dennis Rotter just now at the top of the S's as Schwartz comes out of the bottom. And that gap's coming down a little bit. He's going to have to wait to get by the 59 of Groningen here. And it just peaks back up above 10 seconds. Dean Ellico has made it into pit road. And so he will drop to the back of the running LMP field here. We know he was putting this race into 3rds. He's gone a little bit further on that fuel load. And now makes his way out. So the LMP's doing this race on 1 set of tires. It wasn't too bad, the tire wear here. We're hearing that all through testing. And the drivers in this league are very, very accustomed to saving what they need to have the best strategy and the best results. And we very, very rarely see tire changes in this league. Although it does happen, depending on the circuit. We remember Andre Heinrich did take tires, and it was a fascinating race that we had. Was that at Sebring? I'm drawing a blank if that was last race or the one before. But he took tires on his first stop and then almost made it work as he was the fast car coming back near the end of the run. Chasing down this man, Dennis Rotter. 11 seconds is the gap. It's starting to get a little big for my liking if we're going to see these two come together and battle it out at the end. Schwartz is on clear track. He's actually coming through the S's as Rotter comes down past the GTE leader. Schwartz has got very clear track all the way around. He can basically run without impediment. He's in turn 6. The next GTE car he's going to encounter is crossing the start-finish line. There it is, Jen McDonald. Rotter just now coming into turn 6, and he's got the 229 of Dinkel. That is the final GTE car between him and the race leader. And you can see now as he clears that traffic, it's 12.2 seconds, the gap. as Schwarz puts in a 1:10.038. See what Rotter's lap time is dealing with that traffic again. It's a 1:10.7. So the gap is officially 12 seconds. But now with empty track, we can see, actually there is nobody between them on circuit. Schwarz will be coming up to Ellico, who has made his final stop. Yes, he has. We're just watching the gap. Here's Seeley. He is now 4.4 seconds behind Rainey. There's Rainey. The best way to tell those cars apart is that Seeley has the yellow flashes on the back of the car. You can see Rainey has the all blue rear panels over the tires, the quarter panels, if you will. Seeley and Ellico running the yellow rear quarter panels as well as the gloss yellow rims. Rainey has the black rims. There you see Seeley coming over the hill, so that battle is getting close, and Paul Seeley was the quickest car on circuit last time around, a 1:10.415, so that gap is coming down as well and is going to be subject to a final pit stop. And we saw Rainey rather have trouble getting into pit road. He won't make that mistake again, I'm sure. But he'll definitely will be careful, and maybe Seeley can gain a little bit of time and close that battle up. He gets by Gronica down into turn 1, uses all of the circuit with a slightly pinched entry. And gains another 0.4 of a second on lap 58. There's Hayden Fowler, not sure about taking it easy. He has lengthened the gap to Jen McDonald. It's now a little over 23 seconds. And the only car in the 16s last time around was the Canadian. Our next race is in 2 weeks' time around the road circuit at Daytona. We look to have a much larger field there. And we know the league is going to be looking into that in the 2 weeks coming up to it. We had a fantastic race at Daytona last season. That was the night race, of course. We've already had our night race this season at Sebring as we took the green flag just as the sun set. As Keith Rainey now on the same straightaway as Paul Seeley, who's chasing him. That is the battle for, I was going to say for the final podium spot, but no, Dean Ellico is still got his claws on that. He's made his pit stop. These two have not. And that was his longer pit stop as well. As he went back 24-2, his pit stops were very close. Rainey and Seeley will have shorter stops, but the gap, 29 seconds from Seeley to Ellico. Rainey making that very difficult pass over the hill. The cars just jump to the left there as you crest that brow, and left a lot of space between his, well, I say teammate, his GTE teammate, Hayden Fowler there. Last thing you want to do is make a pass and take out not only a teammate, but a class leader. Dennis Rotter dropping back even further as Seeley has made it to the pits. So we're going to start finding out here how long these stops are. He stopped first, which doesn't bode well against the battle with Keith Rainey. Schwarz is in the pits as well. He's a lap ahead. Seeley has come out. And we will watch the 6 car to see what happens. Rotter has stayed out and overtaken Schwarz temporarily for the lead, but we know that gap was increasing. Is that Rainey not coming in? The race leader, is that Kevin Hensel? Kevin Hensel through pit road. As out and stopped for 19.5 seconds with Schwarz. 19.7 for Seeley. So very, very close. They came in a lap apart. Here is Rainey, still out, as is the LMP leader, Dennis Rotter. Rotter coming down the back straightaway now, and we'll see. We don't expect him to come down. He's got to stretch this out and really put in some qualifying laps if he wants to try and at least get close enough for a run here. Schwarz is 30 seconds up the road, and I would expect another 2 laps at least before we see Rotter. Rainey, on the other hand, may be coming in this lap. We'll find out. That car is still on flat chat, and he is going around one more time. Less than 15 minutes here remaining in round 4 of the Night Racing League Sports Car Championship. Kevin Hensel wins the repair battle with Chris Costa. Costa is still stopped in the pits, and at this point I'm not sure if we're going to see the 76 car back out. He was 3 laps behind Hensel when they were both being repaired. Hensel has got that car back out, and every meter he turns now just solidifies that 5th place. He's going to have to let the 229 by. Jonathan Hinkle in his podium position. And that is going to be by far his best run here in the KRL. And congrats to him if he brings that home. And he has 14 seconds on Steve Groninga right there in the Corvette C8R. Dean Ellico, Rainey's in the pits. Keith Rainey brings his car down the pits, and this is a huge stop. Schwarz goes by, retakes second. It's not time for Rotter yet. As in for his splash comes Keith. And where will he come out? It's 12 seconds between Ellico and Seeley. Of course, Seeley had the shorter stop. And up on the jacks. I think that's a mistake. Ellico goes through. Here comes Seeley out of the last corner. And the 6 car is taking tires. And that's going to drop him back to 5th. Seeley goes through, and that's a free position for the Canadian. He's persevered all race trying to come back from that mistake he made on lap 2. And he's up in 4th place. Seeley coming by McDonald, who's in 2nd in the GTE class. And Seeley stopped, or pit road time of 41.6. Dean Ellico 46.5, so that closed the gap up. But you can see still not really going to happen. It's about 11 seconds, the gap between. Here is Dean Ellico now just coming out of the chicane. So Seeley stopped for 41.6, 1 minute and 3 seconds for the 6 car on pit road. And that has dropped him out of 4th place. And it is 15 seconds, the gap to the 72. Here is the race leader. Bringing it in. 30 seconds, the gap. And we can see the LMPs are doing about 40 seconds on pit road. So, as I think Chris Costa has left that car running, and it's not appreciating that. You see a lot of smoke. Where is the 204? Just now on the front straightaway. Rotter drops the clutch, but he's going to have some work to do here. He's got time, 11 minutes. Get it up to speed, keep it over inside the blue cone. And the gap is down to, as we predicted, 5 seconds. He's got 10 minutes to get 5 seconds back. So that's your LMP story. Now, as we talked about earlier in the broadcast, what are the GTEs going to do? Can they make it on one stop, or are they going to have to do a splash and dash here right at the very end? Paul Seeley down through the S's, now running in 4th place. And we'll watch those lap times between he and Keith Rainey. We're told that was a mistake on the 6 car. That the crew chief thought the tires were too worn and put on fresh rubber. And that's the only silver lining in that cloud, is Keith has got fresh rubber and light fuel. He can do qualifying laps here and try and reel in the 6 car, who's been running on these tires for an hour and 20 minutes. There is Keith now. Down the back straightaway, Seeley just coming out of the chicane in front of him. Jen McDonald with a very comfortable lead, almost 1 minute over the 229 in 3rd place. So she's just got to keep it on the island here, stay out of the way of these guys who may be pushing to try and close up their own battles in LMP. It'll be a solid points day. And how many times have we heard that before from the 99 car? Rainey maybe a little compromised there, having to wait through the S's. He was 0.7 of a second quicker than Seeley on the last lap, lap 66. Seeley, the slowest of the 3 cars, not making an impression on Dean Ellico. Ellico an 11.6, Seeley a 1:12 dead. As we watch the BTL Motorsports BMW M8 of Jennifer McDonald in 2nd place. There's a Night Racing Esports Corvette in front of her, but it's not the one she'd love to be chasing here. That is Kevin Hensel. Running 10 laps down after an interesting day. Her and Jen battling for most of the first half of this race, but it's all kind of slipped away for the 94. Lap times last time around for those LMP cars, an 11.4 for Dean Ellico, 11.2 for Seeley, and a 12.2 for Rainey. So Seeley opens that up. McDonald pushes very wide coming onto the short chute. Rotter puts in the quickest lap of the cars on track, but it's only enough to gain 0.2 of a second that time around. He's got the gap down to 4.3. As your race leader comes down the back straightaway with a little bit of traffic. That's a group of 3 GTE cars. Now, we're not racing for position, but it's a group of 3 nonetheless, so we'll see how well. There's Rotter in the background, so that gap coming down. And not the best part of the track to catch a group of cars. He's by Groninga fairly quickly. coming out onto the front straight. He's going to get Hensel here, who moves well out of the way. So that's about as good as it could have gotten. Not really any gap through the S's. Looks like, if anything, it's Rotter that has to let up here. And he will get both cars down before turn 6. Up ahead, McDonald has already got Schwartz past. The gap coming down, it says 3 seconds now. Rotter, a 1:09.8. We said he had to do qualifying laps, and that is a qualifying time. And he's catching McDonald here at the end of the long straight. He'll have to wait through the chicane. Turns 10A and 10B. And again, he has to keep it tidy through the final corner. Nothing too over-aggressive. The gap lengthens back up, but has not come over 4 seconds. And there it is. They're on track together again. John Dinkel is the next car on circuit, the third place GTE car, just coming out of turn 7. And there's Schwartz now on turn 7. The gap a little steady here as they clear all that traffic. You saw 1:12.1 and 1:12.3 respectively on lap number 70. Still 4 minutes. And the completion of the lap past the 0 mark. Rotter takes every bit of circuit he can grab. Nobody in trouble with incident points. And there is the 229. The GTEs are well and spread out, so nobody has a reason to really worry about giving away a second or two here with the LMPs battling. Two and a half seconds the gap. You may be leading, Andreas. Oh, a little wide coming out of 7. You may be leading. It may be tough ask to try and catch you, but I'm going to make you work for it every meter of the way, says Dennis Rotter, who put in a 1:10.067 the last time around. Another quarter of a second. And the gap is 2.3. Under 3 minutes. And I think 3 more laps, depending on when he crosses that line. Pick your apexes and your braking point. Rotter visually closing the gap. He's pushing. You can see him attacking those apexes. It was 1.5 seconds quicker the last time around. A 1:11.1 to a 1:12.6. We saw Schwartz a little wide there coming out of 7. And definitely looked like he had to let off a little bit. Rotter taking advantage of that. The 99 has made it to pit road. So whether that's for safety, these cars are far enough apart. Still over a 30-second gap to John Dinkel. The GTEs, I'm sure, are just saving fuel or doing whatever they need. And as I say, they can even come down for a splash and go without really worrying about track position. Schwartz a 1:09.98 that time around as he responds to the pressure from behind and widens that gap just a little bit to Dennis Rotter. Dennis looks like he's had a fantastic first sector here, though. One minute remaining, and coming out of turn 7, they're going to get the white flag this time around. So he'll have the chicane and the final turn plus one more lap to see if he can close this gap and give Andreas Schwarz a battle for the lead. Andreas has driven a perfect race today in that 204 car. And responding with a 109.98. Here he comes again to start his final lap. A 110.6. 0.4 of a second. The gap is closed to Dennis, from Dennis Rotter. But it's just a nice, clean lap. They have the GTE race leader in front of them. So if they get by Hayden Fowler here, they're going to take a lap off the GTE race. As by goes Schwarz. And I think reality might start staring Dennis Rotter in the face here. I don't think there's enough time. Diving out of the way is Fowler. He recognizes this is a battle for the LNP win. But it's been a perfect drive all day, starting from 3rd place and coming out of the final corner up over the crest of the hill into the final right-hand turn to win at Road Atlanta, Andreas Schwarz, ahead of Dennis Rotter, and right in behind, the 28 of Hayden Fowler gets his second race win in the KRL. Back to the top step of the podium. Second in GTE is Jennifer McDonald in the 99 car. And coming home in third and the final place on the podium, Dean Ellico in the 429. Congratulations to him on a great drive. And also to our third place finisher in GTE, John Dinkle in the 229. So here are your results. Andreas Schwarz with his first win in the Night Racing League, ahead of Dennis Rotter and Dean Ellico. Paul Seeley will finish in 4th, ahead of Keith Rainey. Thomas Brommel and Oliver Schlabs did not finish. The GTE field looks like this, with Hayden Fowler winning his first race of Season 2, ahead of Jennifer McDonald and John Dinkle. Those are your podium cars. Steve Groniga, spectacular 4th place, ahead of Kevin Hensel and Chris Costa. Jens Wolters, who was challenging all day, lost in the S's and will finish in 7th, ahead of Mark Sonnen and Chris Thompson. Your points championship looks like this. Dennis Rotter, it's a good day, even though he couldn't chase down Andreas Schwarz. He's got a 42-point lead now over Andre Heinrich. Andreas Schwarz jumps to 3rd, 47 points back, and it's only a 5-point gap between him and Andre. Thomas Brommel, another rough day, in 4th. Paul Seeley in 5th, only 4 points back of the German. Stritter drops to 6th place, ahead of Keith Rainey, Ellico, and Oliver Schlabs. Jennifer McDonald regains the lead in GTE. A 14-point lead now over Jens Wolters. Hayden Fowler closes that gap with his race win. 16 points separate the top 3 in GTE. Seninger, Groniga, and Hensel, the top 6. Join us in 2 weeks' time as we hit the high banks around the road circuit at Daytona. It should be a good one, and we'll see you then on the Night Racing League.